The cargo ship New Dawn moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the small bridge, watching the stars outside his window. His ship was not big or fancy. It carried medicine and food to the human colonies far from Earth. Jake had been doing this job for 10 years, and he liked the quiet life in space. Lisa Carter sat at her station nearby. She was the person who sent messages to other ships and space stations. Today she looked worried. The ship's message system had been acting strange for 3 days. Sometimes it worked fine, and sometimes it sent the wrong signals to the wrong places. "Captain, I think we should stop and fix the message system," Lisa said. "It might cause problems when we talk to the space station." Jake looked at the screens showing their location. They were still 2 days away from their destination, a small colony called Haven Point. The people there needed the medicine they carried. If they stopped now to fix the system, they would be late. "Can you work around it for now?" Jake asked. "The colony is waiting for these supplies." Lisa nodded but still looked worried. "I think so. But the system keeps switching to the wrong channels. I have to be very careful." The New Dawn had 6 people working on it. Besides Jake and Lisa, there were 4 others. Ron Phillips fixed the engines and machines. Betty Walsh cooked food and kept track of supplies. Sam Green and Danny Lopez helped with everything else. They were all good people who worked hard. As they got closer to their destination, Lisa prepared to send their usual message. Every cargo ship had to tell the space traffic control where they were and what they carried. It was a simple message that took only a few minutes to send. Lisa typed the message on her computer. "Cargo ship New Dawn reporting position. Carrying medical supplies to Haven Point Colony. All systems normal. Requesting docking permission." She pressed the button to send the message. But something went wrong. The ship's communication system had been damaged weeks ago during a small meteor shower. The repair job had not been done correctly. Instead of sending the message on the normal channel, it switched to a different one. The message went out on the emergency military frequency that only the Earth Defense Force used. But that was not the worst part. The damaged system also mixed up the words and changed some of them. What should have said medical supplies came out as massive attack. The words all systems normal became all systems failing. The part about requesting docking permission turned into requesting immediate help. The message that reached Earth's military command was very different from what Lisa had tried to send. It sounded like a desperate cry for help from a colony under attack by unknown enemies. At Earth's Central Command, Admiral Richard Stone was working late in his office. He had been in charge of Earth's defenses for 5 years. His job was to keep all human colonies safe from any threats. So far, humans had not met any hostile alien races, but Stone always prepared for the worst. His assistant, Commander Nancy Price, ran into his office. Her face was pale with fear. "Sir, we just received an emergency signal from the outer colonies," she said. "It sounds like they are under attack." Stone stood up quickly. "Show me the message." Nancy played the damaged message on the office speakers. The words were broken and hard to understand, but they heard massive attack, systems failing, and need help now. In the background, there were strange electronic sounds caused by the damaged communication system. "Where did this come from?" Stone asked. "The signal came from the Haven Point area, sir, but it's very weak and broken. We can't get a clear response when we try to call back." Stone's mind raced. Haven Point was one of the most distant human colonies. If aliens had attacked there, it meant they had traveled very deep into human space. This could be the beginning of a war. "Have we ever had contact with aliens before?" Stone asked. "No, sir. This would be the first time." Stone walked to the big window in his office. He could see Earth below with its blue oceans and white clouds. Millions of people lived on the planet, not knowing that somewhere in space, other humans might be fighting for their lives. He turned back to Nancy. "Send out Protocol 7 immediately." Nancy's eyes went wide. Protocol 7 was the highest military alert level. It meant calling every human warship, every space station, and every military base to prepare for total war. "Sir, are you sure? Protocol 7 has never been used before. If aliens have found us and are attacking our colonies, we need to respond with full force," Stone said. "We cannot let them destroy our people. Send the order now." Nancy rushed out of the office to begin the process. Within minutes, emergency signals went out to every human military base across the galaxy. The message was clear and simple. Hostile aliens had attacked a human colony. All forces were to prepare for immediate combat. Far away on the New Dawn, Jake Morrison was having dinner with his crew. They had no idea what their broken message system had just caused. Lisa was still worried about the communication problems, but she thought the message had been sent correctly. "I hope they fix the message system at Haven Point," she said to Jake. "It's getting worse every day." "Don't worry about it," Jake replied. "After we deliver these supplies, we'll go back to Earth for a full repair." Outside their small ship, space looked peaceful and empty. The stars shone quietly in the darkness. None of them knew that thousands of human warships were already beginning to move toward their location. Admiral Stone stood in the command center, watching as reports came in from across human space. Every available ship was being prepared for battle. The largest military force in human history was being assembled to respond to what they believed was humanity's first alien war. The biggest misunderstanding in galactic history had just begun, all because of a broken communication system and a simple message that went to the wrong place. The emergency signal reached every corner of human space. On military bases, space stations, and warships, alarms began ringing. Soldiers ran to their positions. Captains rushed to their bridges. Engineers started preparing weapons and shields. Nobody had time to ask questions. The message was clear. Aliens were attacking humanity. Fleet Admiral Catherine Brooks was eating breakfast on her flagship, the massive battleship Titan's Wrath, when the alarm sounded. She was a tall woman with gray hair who had spent 30 years in space. She had never fought aliens before, but she had trained for this day her entire career. "All hands to battle stations," she announced over the ship's speakers. "This is not a drill. Prepare for immediate departure." Her ship was one of the biggest in the human fleet. It carried enough weapons to destroy entire cities. Around it, hundreds of other warships began receiving the same orders. The space near Earth's main military base became busy with ships moving in all directions. Commander Paul Davis was on a secret mission in deep space when his small ship, Shadowrunner, received the emergency signal. His job was to watch for enemy ships and gather information. He had been alone in space for 2 months, and he was supposed to stay hidden for 2 more months. "Well, so much for staying hidden," he said to himself as he changed course toward the battle zone. His ship was fast and hard to see on enemy sensors, but it was not built for big fights. Still, every ship was needed. Captain Maria Santos was on vacation with her family when the military police came to her door. She was the captain of Eagle's Flight, a large ship that carried fighter planes and bombers. She had not expected to return to duty for another week. "I'm sorry, Captain, but all leave is canceled," the officer told her. "You need to report to your ship immediately." Maria kissed her husband and children goodbye, not knowing when she would see them again. An hour later, she was on a fast transport heading back to her ship. Around the galaxy, thousands of other military officers were doing the same thing. The call for ships went beyond just military vessels. The government ordered all large civilian ships to help with the war effort. Mining ships, passenger liners, and cargo vessels were told to report to the nearest military base for weapons and armor. Captain Steve Johnson had been mining asteroids for rare metals when he received the order. His ship, Iron Fist, was big and strong but had no weapons. He was told to fly to Mars base for military upgrades. "I never signed up to fight aliens," he complained to his crew. But like everyone else, he followed orders. Within hours, workers were installing laser cannons and missile launchers on his mining ship. News of the alien attack spread quickly through human space. On every planet and space station, people watched the news reports with fear and anger. Many had family members serving in the military or living on distant colonies. The leader of the Earth government, President Frank Miller, appeared on television to speak to all humanity. "My fellow humans," he said, "today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. Alien forces have attacked one of our colonies, but we will not let this attack go unanswered. Our brave military forces are already moving to defend our people and our way of life." What nobody knew was that far away, other intelligent beings were watching the massive human fleet movement with growing alarm. The Galactic Council was a group of peaceful alien races that had been exploring space for thousands of years. They knew about humans but considered them a young, primitive species that had barely learned to travel between stars. The Council had been planning to make contact with humanity in a few more years, when they thought humans would be ready. Ambassador Zektar belonged to a race of tall, green-skinned aliens called Saurians. He was working in his office on the Council homeworld when his assistant brought him urgent news. "Sir, our sensors are detecting massive movement in human space," the assistant said. "It looks like they are gathering their entire military fleet." Zektar looked at the sensor data with confusion. "Are you sure these numbers are correct? It shows over 3,000 human warships moving toward the same area." "Yes, sir, and more ships are joining them every hour." This was very disturbing news. The Galactic Council had thought humans only had a few hundred small warships. The sensor readings showed they had been very wrong about human military strength. Why would they gather so many ships? Zektar wondered. Are they planning to attack us? Other members of the Galactic Council were asking the same questions. Admiral Quindal of the Cetacean Alliance was a dolphin-like alien who commanded the Council's small peacekeeping force. His ships were designed for exploration and rescue missions, not for war. The humans appeared to be preparing for a major military campaign, he reported to the Council. But we have done nothing to threaten them. Why would they mobilize their forces? The Council members were afraid. They had always solved problems with talk and cooperation, not violence. The idea of fighting a war was terrible to them. But the human fleet was so large that they had to consider defending themselves. "Should we prepare our own ships?" asked another Council member. "Our ships are not built for fighting," Admiral Quindal replied. "If humans want to attack us, we would not be able to stop them." Back in human space, more ships continued joining the growing fleet. The assembly point was near Haven Point Colony, where Admiral Stone believed the alien attack had taken place. Ships came from every direction, creating the largest gathering of human military power in history. Captain Morrison and his crew on the New Dawn were still flying peacefully toward Haven Point, completely unaware of what was happening around them. They had tried to send another message to the colony but received no answer. Lisa Carter was frustrated with their communication system. "I don't understand why they aren't answering," she told Jake. "Maybe their communication system is broken too." Jake was starting to worry. Space colonies always answered messages from incoming cargo ships. The silence was strange. What they didn't know was that Haven Point Colony had been evacuated. When military headquarters couldn't contact the colony after receiving the distress signal, they assumed it had been destroyed or captured. They had sent fast ships to rescue any survivors and found the colony intact but confused. "We never sent any distress signal," the colony administrator had told the rescue ships. "Everything here is fine. We don't know what you're talking about," but by then it was too late. The military machine was already in motion. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, and the entire human war industry had been activated. The fleet was too large and moving too fast to stop easily. Admiral Stone stood in the command center watching the fleet numbers grow on his screens. He felt proud and worried at the same time. Humanity was showing its strength, but they were heading toward the first interstellar war in human history. Unknown to him, that war was about to begin because of a simple misunderstanding. The human war fleet arrived at the Haven Point system like a storm of metal and fire. Over 3,000 ships of all sizes spread out across space. Massive battleships with enough weapons to destroy planets flew alongside small fighter craft. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Fleet Admiral Catherine Brooks stood on the bridge of Titan's Wrath, looking at the sensor displays. She expected to see alien warships and burning colonies. Instead, she saw something that made no sense. "Report," she ordered her sensor officer. Lieutenant Gary Foster checked his instruments twice before answering. "Ma'am, I'm not detecting any alien ships. No wreckage. No signs of battle. Haven Point Colony appears to be intact." Catherine frowned. "That can't be right. Check again." While Gary double-checked his sensors, Catherine looked out the main window. In the distance, she could see a small cargo ship docked at Haven Point Space Station. It looked peaceful and normal. "Ma'am, there's a cargo vessel at the station. It's the New Dawn registered to Captain Jake Morrison. They appear to be conducting routine business." Catherine was confused. Where were the aliens? Where was the battle? The emergency message had made it sound like the colony was under massive attack. On the New Dawn, Captain Jake Morrison was having his own moment of confusion. He had just finished docking at Haven Point when Lisa Carter ran onto the bridge with a shocked expression. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, pointing out the window. Jake looked up and nearly fell out of his chair. The space around Haven Point was filled with more warships than he had ever seen in his life. Huge battleships floated nearby like metal mountains. Smaller ships moved between them like busy insects. "What in the world is going on?" Jake whispered. Before anyone could answer, their communication system came to life with an incoming message. The voice was stern and official. "Cargo vessel New Dawn, this is Fleet Admiral Catherine Brooks of the Earth Defense Force. Prepare to be boarded for questioning." Jake's hands shook as he responded. "Admiral, this is Captain Morrison. We're just a cargo ship delivering medical supplies. I don't understand what's happening here." Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was the fleet's intelligence officer. Her job was to gather information and figure out enemy plans. She was on one of the first shuttles to board the New Dawn, hoping to find clues about the alien attack. When she stepped onto the small cargo ship, she found exactly what she expected to find. A normal crew doing a normal job. Captain Morrison and his people looked scared and confused. They clearly had no idea why a massive war fleet had surrounded their ship. "Captain Morrison, we received a distress signal that appeared to come from this area," Amy explained. The message indicated that aliens were attacking human colonies. Jake looked at his communication officer. "Lisa, did you send any distress signals?" Lisa shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I sent our normal position report, but the communication system has been acting strange lately." Amy felt a cold feeling in her stomach. She was beginning to suspect that something had gone very wrong. "Can you show me your communication records?" Lisa led Amy to her station and showed her the message logs. Amy read the intended message and compared it to what the system had actually sent. The difference was shocking. "Oh no," Amy whispered. "This is a disaster." Before Amy could report her discovery to Admiral Brooks, new alarms began sounding throughout the fleet. Sensor operators across the human ships detected incoming vessels on the edge of the system. The Galactic Council had decided to investigate the human fleet movement. Admiral Quindal led a small group of ships to try to understand what humans were planning. He hoped to speak with them and avoid any conflict. "Remember, we are here for peaceful contact only," he told his officers. "Do not power weapons or take any action that could be seen as threatening." But when the Council ships appeared on human sensors, they looked like exactly what the fleet had been sent to fight: alien vessels approaching the battle zone. Captain Ben Clark commanded the destroyer Storm Chaser. He had been trained to shoot first and ask questions later when facing unknown enemies. When his sensors detected the approaching alien ships, he prepared his weapons. "Unknown vessels, this is the human warship Storm Chaser," he broadcast on all frequencies. "You are approaching a restricted military zone. Turn around immediately or we will open fire." Admiral Quindal received the message but had trouble understanding it. His people had been studying human languages, but they were not perfect at it yet. The threat to open fire was translated incorrectly as open conversation. "Excellent," Quindal told his communication officer. "The humans want to talk. Send a response saying we are happy to meet them." But the Council's response was also poorly translated by human computers. The message "we are happy to meet you" came through as "we are prepared to defeat you." Captain Clark interpreted this as a threat and a declaration of war. He looked at his weapon controls, knowing that the entire human fleet was watching what happened next. On the Titan's Wrath, Admiral Brooks saw the situation developing on her tactical displays. Alien ships were approaching and they had apparently threatened one of her captains. She had seconds to make a decision. "All ships prepare for combat," she ordered. "Unknown vessels are approaching with hostile intent." The human fleet began powering weapons and raising shields. Thousands of gun barrels turned toward the small group of Council ships. Admiral Quindal saw the human ships beginning to target his vessels and realized something was going very wrong. His ships had no military shields or weapons. They were exploration vessels, not warships. "Try to communicate with them again," he ordered frantically. "Tell them we want peace," but it was too late. A nervous gunner on the Storm Chaser, Corporal Tony Martinez, saw what looked like weapon energy building up on one of the alien ships. It was actually just their communication array preparing to send another message. Tony's training took over. When facing enemy weapons, shoot first. He fired a warning shot that was meant to pass in front of the alien ship, but his aim was slightly off. The energy blast hit the Council ship's hull, causing minor damage but also triggering their automatic emergency systems. "We're under attack," shouted one of Quindal's officers. "They fired on us." Both sides now believed they were under attack. The Council ships tried to escape while powering up what few defensive systems they had. The human fleet saw this as preparation for battle. All ships engage, Admiral Brooks ordered. The space around Haven Point erupted in weapon fire. Human ships launched missiles and energy beams at the fleeing Council vessels. The aliens tried to run while sending desperate messages that humans couldn't understand. The battle lasted only 10 minutes. The Council ships were not built for fighting and were completely outmatched. 2 of their ships were disabled and 1 was destroyed. Admiral Quindal's flagship was badly damaged but managed to escape with most of his crew. When the smoke cleared, both sides were convinced the other was a dangerous enemy. The humans had proven their military power, and the aliens had learned to fear it. On the new dawn, Captain Morrison and his crew watched the battle in horror. Lieutenant Commander Foster grabbed Morrison's arm. "Captain, I need to speak with Admiral Brooks immediately," she said. "This whole thing is a mistake caused by your communication system." But the damage was already done. The first battle between humans and aliens had been fought, and both sides were preparing for war. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his small cabin aboard the New Dawn, staring at his hands. They were shaking. Outside his window, he could see the massive human war fleet spread across space like deadly stars. He knew now that his broken communication system had caused all of this. Chief Engineer Ron Phillips knocked on the door and entered without waiting for permission. His face was pale and he carried a datapad with technical information. "Captain, I've been checking our communication logs," Ron said quietly. "The system failure was worse than we thought. Every message we sent for the past week went to the wrong places." Jake looked up at his engineer. "What do you mean?" "Our position reports, supply requests, maintenance schedules, they all went out on random frequencies. Some went to civilian channels, some to military ones. The message that started all this went straight to Earth Defense Command on their highest emergency frequency." Jake felt sick to his stomach. "So this is really our fault." "The equipment failure isn't our fault, sir. But the result..." Ron's voice trailed off as he looked out the window at the warships. On the bridge of Titan's Wrath, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was trying to explain the situation to Admiral Catherine Brooks. But the Admiral was having trouble believing what she was hearing. "You're telling me that this entire fleet mobilization was caused by a broken radio?" Catherine asked. "Yes, ma'am. The cargo ship's communication system malfunctioned and sent garbled messages that looked like a distress call. There was no alien attack on Haven Point. The colony was never in danger." Catherine walked to her command chair and sat down heavily. Around her, bridge officers continued monitoring the aftermath of the battle. Medical ships were rescuing survivors from the alien vessels they had just destroyed. "Ma'am, what should I do with this information?" Amy asked. Before Catherine could answer, her communication officer interrupted. "Admiral, incoming message from Admiral Stone at Earth Command. He wants a full battle report." Catherine knew she had to tell Admiral Stone the truth, but she also knew how embarrassing this would be for everyone involved. The entire human military had been mobilized because of a technical problem on a small cargo ship. She opened a secure channel to Earth. "Admiral Stone, this is Admiral Brooks reporting. Catherine, congratulations on the first victory against alien forces." Stone's voice came through clearly. "What's the status of the enemy fleet?" Catherine took a deep breath. "Sir, we need to talk. There's been a serious misunderstanding." Meanwhile, the surviving alien ships had retreated to a safe distance and were trying to contact their homeworld. Admiral Quindal was in his ship's medical bay, being treated for injuries from the battle. His communication officer brought him urgent news. "Sir, we've managed to reach the Galactic Council. They're demanding a full report on what happened." Quindal struggled to sit up despite his injuries. "Tell them the humans attacked us without warning. Their military force is much larger than we ever imagined. They have thousands of warships and they seem to be preparing for a major war." The news of the battle spread quickly through Galactic Council space. Emergency meetings were called on every member world. The peaceful aliens were faced with something they had never dealt with before, an aggressive species with massive military power. Ambassador Zektar stood before the Council Assembly, sharing what they had learned about humanity. "The human military response was immediate and overwhelming," he reported. "They mobilized over 3,000 warships in less than 2 days. Their weapons technology appears to be more advanced than our own. Most concerning, they attacked our peaceful contact mission without any attempt at communication." The council members spoke in worried voices. Some wanted to gather their own forces for defense. Others suggested trying to make peace with humanity before the situation got worse. "We must assume that humanity is preparing to expand their territory by force," said one council member. "Their fleet is still gathered near our border. They may attack us next." Back at Haven Point, Captain Morrison finally got permission to contact Admiral Stone directly. The conversation was one of the most difficult of his life. "Admiral, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the cargo vessel New Dawn. I need to report a serious equipment failure that may have caused some confusion." Stone was in his office at Earth Command, still trying to understand Amy Foster's report about the miscommunication. "Go ahead, Captain." "Sir, our communication system has been malfunctioning for several days. I believe we accidentally sent a distress signal on your emergency frequency, but there was no alien attack. We were just reporting our normal position." There was a long silence before Stone responded. "Captain, are you telling me that your broken radio caused me to mobilize the entire human fleet?" "Yes, sir." "I'm very sorry, sir." Stone looked around his office at the maps and displays showing the massive military operation he had ordered. Millions of people were involved. The cost was enormous, and it had all been caused by a simple equipment failure. At the same time, Dr. Helen White was working frantically in the fleet's xenolinguistics department. Her job was to study alien languages and try to communicate with other species. She had been analyzing the messages from the alien ships that had approached the fleet. After hours of work, she made an important discovery. The alien messages were not threats or war declarations. They were attempts to communicate peacefully. "The aliens were trying to talk to us," she told her assistant. "Their first message was a greeting. They said they wanted to meet us and establish friendly relations. Then why did our computers translate it as a threat?" her assistant asked. "Because we don't know their language well enough," Helen explained. "Our translation programs made mistakes. What we thought were hostile statements were actually peaceful overtures." Helen rushed to Admiral Brooks with her findings. "Ma'am, I've been analyzing the alien communications. They weren't trying to attack us. They came here to make peaceful contact." Catherine felt another wave of shock. First, she learned that there had been no alien attack on the colony. Now she was learning that the aliens they had just fought were actually trying to be friendly. "Are you certain about this?" Catherine asked. "Yes, ma'am." Their messages were consistent with peaceful first contact protocols. They were as surprised by this battle as we were. Catherine realized that humanity had just made one of the biggest diplomatic mistakes in history. They had attacked a peaceful alien delegation because of translation errors and equipment failures. She called another meeting with her senior officers. "We have a serious problem," she began. "Not only was our fleet mobilization based on a false alarm, but we just attacked aliens who were trying to make friends with us." The room was quiet as the officers absorbed this information. They had all trained for war with hostile aliens. None of them had prepared for the possibility that they might be the ones starting the conflict. "What do we do now?" asked her tactical officer. "We try to fix this mess before it gets worse," Catherine replied. "But first we need to figure out how to communicate with them properly." The situation was becoming more complicated by the hour. On Earth, government leaders were dealing with the political implications of the military mobilization. In council space, alien leaders were preparing for what they saw as an inevitable war with humanity. And in the middle of it all, Captain Morrison and his crew continued their routine cargo delivery, knowing that their simple equipment failure had changed the course of galactic history. 3 weeks after the battle at Haven Point, the galaxy was a very different place. The mistake that started with a broken radio had changed everything between humans and aliens forever. Dr. Helen White worked day and night to establish proper communication with the Galactic Council. She had learned enough of their languages to send clear messages. Her first successful transmission was an apology. To the Galactic Council leadership, her message began, "We are deeply sorry for the misunderstanding that led to conflict. Humanity did not intend to attack your peaceful ships. We wish to explain what happened and discuss how to prevent future problems." The response from the Council was cautious but hopeful. Ambassador Zektar himself replied to the human message. "We are willing to listen to your explanation," he wrote. "But our people are afraid of human military power. You must prove that you truly want peace." Admiral Catherine Brooks was chosen to lead humanity's first official diplomatic mission to alien space. Her flagship, Titan's Wrath, would travel to the Council homeworld with a small escort of ships. It was a dangerous mission because many aliens now saw humans as enemies. President Frank Miller gave Catherine her orders in person. "Admiral, you have the most important job in human history. The decisions you make will affect our species for generations." "I understand, sir. We'll do our best to fix this situation." "Remember, you're not just representing Earth or the military. You're representing all of humanity to beings we've never met before." Catherine's diplomatic team included Dr. Helen White as the chief translator and negotiator. They also brought gifts of human art, music, and literature to show that humans were not just warriors but also creators and thinkers. The journey to Council Space took 2 weeks. During that time, both sides prepared for the historic meeting. The Galactic Council gathered representatives from dozens of alien species. They had never dealt with a situation like this before. When the human ships arrived at the Council homeworld, they were met by an impressive sight. Hundreds of alien vessels surrounded the planet, representing many different species and technologies. Some looked like living creatures, others were pure geometric shapes, and some seemed to be made of light itself. Admiral Quindal, recovered from his injuries, led the Council's delegation. Despite what had happened at Haven Point, he still believed in peaceful solutions to conflicts. The first meeting took place on a neutral space station. Catherine walked into the meeting room and saw aliens for the first time in her life. They were more diverse and strange than humans had ever imagined. Some breathed water, others lived in special atmosphere suits. Some communicated with colors, others with musical sounds. "Welcome to Council Space," Quindal said through a translation device. "We hope this meeting will prevent further violence between our peoples." Catherine bowed respectfully. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We owe you an explanation and an apology for what happened." Dr. White presented the evidence of the communication failure that had started the crisis. She showed how Captain Morrison's broken radio had sent the wrong message to Earth's military. She explained how translation errors had made both sides think the other was hostile. The Council representatives listened carefully to the explanation. Some seemed to accept it, while others remained suspicious. "Even if this was a mistake," said one Council member, "your military response was overwhelming. You brought thousands of warships to fight a few exploration vessels. This shows that humans are naturally aggressive." Catherine had expected this criticism. "You're right that our response was very strong, but you must understand our perspective. We thought our people were being attacked by unknown enemies. We were prepared to defend ourselves with everything we had." "But why do you have so many warships?" asked another alien. "Most Council species have only small defense forces. Your military is larger than all of ours combined." This was the question Catherine had been dreading. She had to explain humanity's history of war and conflict without making humans sound like monsters. "Humans have not always been peaceful with each other," she admitted. "We have fought many wars on our homeworld and in our colonies. We learned to build strong militaries to protect ourselves. When we thought aliens were attacking us, we responded the only way we knew how." The room was quiet as the aliens considered this information. Finally, Ambassador Zektar spoke. "Are humans planning to conquer other species?" he asked directly. "No," Catherine replied firmly. "We want to explore space and learn about the universe. But we also want to be left alone to develop in our own way. We don't want to rule over other species, but we won't let anyone rule over us either." This honest answer seemed to impress some of the Council members. They had expected humans to lie about their intentions or make grand promises they couldn't keep. Over the following days, more meetings took place. Human and alien scientists shared information about their technologies. Diplomats worked on agreements to prevent future misunderstandings. Cultural exchanges allowed both sides to learn about each other's ways of life. Captain Morrison arrived at the Council station as a special guest. Many aliens wanted to meet the human whose broken radio had started the crisis. He was embarrassed but tried to be helpful. "I never meant for any of this to happen," he told the Council assembly. "I was just trying to deliver medicine to sick people. If I could change what happened, I would." His simple honesty and obvious regret helped convince many aliens that humans were not evil warmongers but ordinary people who had made a mistake. The negotiations resulted in several important agreements. Humans would join the Galactic Council as members, but with special status because of their military strength. They would help protect Council space from outside threats. While the Council would help humans learn about galactic politics and diplomacy, trade agreements were established. allowing humans to exchange their technologies for alien knowledge and resources. Cultural exchange programs would help both sides understand each other better. Most importantly, new communication protocols were established to prevent future misunderstandings. All species would use standardized emergency frequencies and translation systems. When Admiral Brooks returned to Earth, she was greeted as a hero. The diplomatic mission had been a complete success. Humanity now had allies among the stars instead of enemies. Captain Morrison also received recognition for his role in the crisis. Instead of facing punishment for the equipment failure, he was given a medal and promoted to Captain of Interstellar Relations. His job would be to help other cargo captains avoid similar communication problems. Admiral Stone stood in his office, looking out at Earth once again. But now he knew that Earth was no longer alone in the universe. Humans had neighbors among the stars, and those neighbors knew that humanity was not to be taken lightly. The broken radio message that had started as a simple accident had revealed humanity's true military power to the galaxy. Other species now treated humans with respect and caution. They knew that while humans wanted peace, they were always prepared for war. The Galactic Council had learned that the universe contained species very different from themselves. Not all intelligent beings solved problems through discussion and compromise. Some, like humans, were willing to fight when threatened. This knowledge changed how the Council approached other new species they encountered. They realized that peaceful contact required careful preparation and clear communication. Years later, historians would call the Haven Point incident the most important mistake in galactic history. A simple equipment failure had brought two very different groups of species together and changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Captain Morrison continued, flying cargo routes between human colonies and alien worlds. His communication system was replaced with the most advanced equipment available. He never wanted to accidentally start another war. But sometimes, late at night in the quiet of space, he wondered what would have happened if his radio had worked properly that day. Would humans and aliens have met eventually anyway? Would the first contact have been peaceful? He decided it didn't matter. What mattered was that the mistake had been fixed and both sides had learned from it. Humans were no longer alone in the universe, and the galaxy was a more interesting place because of it. The New Dawn continued its routes through space, carrying cargo and passengers between worlds. But now it also carried the knowledge that sometimes the biggest changes in history come from the smallest accidents.